स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। निदिध्यासनं करोमि। अहं प्रतिदिनं प्रातः स्मरामि निदिध्यासनं करोमि। I begin each day in initiating my thoughts towards the reality of who I am, apart from the roles that I play. There is a person, you can call it Jivatma, who is also the expression of Paramatma. This is the person. This person has always been around, and always will be. This is an independent person. You can find this independent person at all times, totally engaged in playing the roles jointly decided between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. The script of the play and the roles within the play is what expresses as the experiences of life. None of the roles are perfect. They all have pluses and minuses, lights and shadows, beginnings and ends, pleasant and unpleasant, That is the nature of the script of any play. But the variations of the roles and the experiences pertaining to the roles become a totally different experience if the actor does not know that it is simply a role. No role is possible without a person. But if the person itself is not cognized, recognized, or appreciated, one can see the problems of the roles defining the person. I do nididhyasanam early in the morning, soon after waking up, regularly, so as to learn retain and enjoy the truth about this person. If this is done, then everything falls into place. Life is no longer a burden. Roles lose their bite, their poignancy. I observe the ups and downs the pleasant and the unpleasant, with a smile, with an inner smile. The cognition and the recognition of the person needs to be told clearly and understandably, so that my mind can accept and be able to distinguish the roles from the person. In the next few classes, we will go over the basic and important introduction to cognizing and then recognizing the person. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhed Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. So in these few classes of what I would call an advanced introduction to Vedanta, we will go over some points that Swami Akhandananda ji has given us to ponder over. And before we start in a new text in a few weeks, so this is what we are doing. This happens to be a couple of very deep subjects mentioned in a book by Swami Akhandananda ji. And I can choose from any one of the ones that really impress me, but for this time, for this place, we thought we would go over these two chapters from Swami Akhandananda ji's book, which was called Sadhana or Brahma Anubhuti. And in the introduction to the book itself, the publisher said that out of the 26 chapters, there are 2 chapters that are meant for really advanced students. So I decided to adopt those 2 chapters, and that's what I'm basically teaching. So, you know, Swami Dayanand ji used to say this. I remember this so well. And Swami Dayanand ji had, sorry,
just a little bit of adjustment with the camera. It takes a little bit of time. It might be the wrong way.
It was crooked a little bit? Is that what it was? Okay.
Takes a bit. I think this is better, right? Yeah. Okay. Huh? Is that better? Straight line? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
All right, thank you. So Pujya Swami Dayanand ji had a very a remarkable ability to put in some simple words and sentences defining the essence of the teaching. You know, the very famous example that you may have seen, that he would say, there is not one God, there is only God. You must have heard this. Very, very profound and very simple statement, you know, that defines the very essence of what it is. You cannot say there's one God, because it is the very body of the God, which is the very essence of the God. So this is what it means. A very beautiful way of expressing it. In that manner, he had said, which is the essence of this teaching really, he said, you are the problem and you are the solution. This is something one should really ponder over. A very profound statement. And I have to admit that when this was first given to me, I didn't understand it. I think I do now. Taken me a lot of years. And so I hope you understand it, but if you don't, there is a joy in the discovery of this statement. You are the problem. You are the solution. This has to be, please remember this, at least during this advanced introduction to Vedanta. So what it really means is that either knowingly or unknowingly, we are all searching for Ishvara, for God. This needs to be kept in mind. It doesn't appear that I am searching for God. It is something that I'm not sure what I am really searching for, but there are certain things that I know what I'm searching for. I'm looking for, really basically what it means is, I'm searching for three basic things. And all three things are the aspects of Ishvara. I do not ever want to disappear. Cannot think about it, don't like it, do not accept it. For all my problems in life, I still want to be. The very feeling that one time or the other I may disappear as a person is so unthinkable that I don't know how to even think about it. This is not the way Ishvara is. Ishvara is not an absence, it is a presence. And so my presence also is indicative of my search for God. And my presence is not something which is transitional. I am here today, gone tomorrow, not knowing where I am, not that kind of a presence. I want to be. And I want to be alive. I want to be aware that I am. And so if somebody offers me that the only way we can save you is to put you in coma, where I'm not aware of the fact that I am, that is not acceptable to me. I would not even think about it. That's not what I'd rather not be than to be and not be aware of it. So the very awareness is something that I want. And of course, the third aspect of it is I want to be aware that I'm okay, that I'm happy, I'm complete, I don't lack anything. So if there is some kind of a pact between God and I, between Ishvara and I, that you can be, you are aware but you are aware of your unhappiness, I would not sign up for that. That is not a pact that is attractive to me. So therefore, it is very clear that what I'm looking for is the nature of Ishvara to be myself. Because how do I define Ishvara? Is someone who would be dependent on others, who is not the total boss, and who is not happy as a boss? There are a lot of bosses, in fact all of the bosses, including presidents and CEOs, are not necessarily happy. I bet you if you interview all the presidents of the United States and how much effort it takes to get there, if you ask them, was it worth it? In their private moments, they will say, I'm not sure. So I want to be a boss, but a happy, complete boss. One who is not critical of others, one who enjoys the play, one who expresses the experiences in a joyful manner, who's always there, one whose plays always ends in comedy rather than tragedy. That's the person I want to be. This is the definition of God that I want. So now comes a more detailed explanation of you are the problem, you are the solution. So think about this. This requires critical thinking. If I want God to be unlimited, always present, at all times, at all places, any kind of a limitation that I impose on God violates the very principle of what Ishvara is. So if I say that God is different from me, imagine the implication of this assumption. You have now relegated God to a limited being. You're violating the very principle of who you want to be. You want to be Ishvara, who is all-pervasive, all present at all times, awareful at all times, and happy at all times. This is what you want God to be. And yet, if we follow that up with an assumption that I am just a limited being, unhappy, uncertain, fearful of the future, you know what we are doing? We are violating the very principle of God. So this cannot be. Either you abandon your goals, you abandon the very definition of Ishvara and say, even Ishvara is defective. limited, uncertain. Or the alternative is very different. The alternative is that I accept God's definition, which is all pervasive, all present, all happy, all awareful, but I don't have that understanding, because that means that I need to be that. You see, this is a very important thing. By having a view of yourself as being limited, you are limiting the very definition of God. It cannot be that you are limited. You cannot be. So very clearly, there is a problem in this definition. This is what Swami Dayanandji was saying. And this is what is being explained so beautifully by Swami Akhandananda. And what he's saying is that instead of searching, instead of doing things that don't address the main problem, you're wasting your time. So essentially speaking, we'll go into this more detail later. Essentially what it means is you accept yourself as a limited being, but you want to do some things in the future that will make you yourself acceptable to yourself. This is essentially what we are doing. This is a very important thing, really speaking. So this is talked about in various Advaitic, Vedantic scriptures as Bhavasagar. It's called Bhavasagar. So Bhavasagar means an ocean of postponement. That's what it really means, essentially. We are just postponing. We're saying that I don't like what I am now, but I think if I keep doing these following things, in the future, I'll be acceptable to myself. Shastra says, please, 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 grow up. This is never going to happen. It's never, ever, because it is not the truth. You take yourself to be a limited being now, and then you do a number of things, all in the hope that at some time in the future you will become unlimited. Is that ever going to happen? You've already accepted yourself as a limited person, and now you want to expand your limitedness a little bit. Will that really happen? Is that not foolishness? This is what Swami Dayanandji was saying. You are the problem. I didn't quite understand that definition until it was really made clear over the years. So, therefore, what it means is, so now then the question is, you will, if I talk like that, you will say, okay, but what do you want me to do? What are you doing? What do you want me to do? So our acharyas say, the Mahatmas all say this. And they're prompting me to say this. Do not accept yourself as a limited person. How can I not? Every experience in my life, every moment, every interaction confirms the fact that I've got problems. I'm not perfect. How can I not accept the fact that I'm limited? Shastra and the acharyas say it is a flawed thinking. Go into the flaws of why you think you are a limited person. This is what you need to do. Is that doing? In a way, yes, doing, but a very different kind of doing. It is to do to know, to be clear, to be wise. That kind of doing. Praptasya praptihi. This is a very traditional thing we've been saying for a long time. That if you have really lost something, then karma becomes prominent and jnanam becomes secondary. But if you already have it and you don't know it, then jnanam becomes prominent and karma becomes secondary. So don't argue that, even knowing that I am complete, I don't have to do anything. You have to come to a class, you have to study, you have to find the right teacher, you have to meditate, all of those kinds of things. But the main idea that you're doing is not postponing the false experience that at some time in the future, if I just keep going, I will be okay. It's not going to be okay. You're either okay now and don't know it, and you have to figure that out, or you'll never be okay. This is the problem. This is the solution. So here, this relationship between samashti and vyashti, the macrocosm and the microcosm, life in general and my own personal life, all of these need to be brought into play in understanding where my flaw is. Why is it that I don't understand? What do I need to do to understand? And so, we know this very well, that what Shastra is saying is, there is a mistake in the way you are evaluating yourself. Complete mistake. And that we will help you to understand where the mistake is. And it is not possible for you to figure this out by yourself. You're not your own. You cannot be on your own and figure it out. And so this is a very important thing. I mean, this is just on the side that I'm mentioning this. This is not the main argument. Because the question is, why not? Why can't I figure it out? Because in any kind of an effort that involves the bhavasagar, the postponement of who I am, any kind of an effort that I do, and even any kind of figuring out where I'm making the mistake, it can only be done as you are now, as a limited person. So your basis of understanding is that I'm a limited person. Now, how can I become less limited? That's all you're doing. That is a flaw. Anyway, that we can discuss. There's aspects of that. So let's go back to the main argument. So what is it that I need to do? So there, it is said that really an intelligent Atma Vichara, Atma exploration of who I am, what is going on, is important. What is my relationship to God? What my experience is? A critical vichara is what is really necessary. So this vichara, this examination, this thinking, should be done by looking at both the samashti as well as the vyashti. So I go back to the definition of Ishvara as an unlimited being, always present, and therefore must include me. If that is the case, let me examine what kind of samashti, what kind of Ishvara can there be? One possibility is that Ishvara is built up of parts. I am a part of Ishvara. There's a lot of, not lot, but there are some that I'm aware of, some schools of thought who believe that we are all parts of Ishvara. That you and I and him and her and so on, we all make up the various parts, and Ishvara is really the sum of the parts. So, Vedanta says, no, this is a flawed thinking. And you can easily, this is a very basic thing where you can dismiss it, why this is not the right thing to do. Why not? Because if Ishvara is the sum of the parts, that means he or she is dependent on the parts. It's like bricks in a home. The whole home, at least in India, not here, is made up of bricks. And if one brick falls, then the house becomes that much weaker. And a few more bricks fall, the house crumbles. So this is a flawed way of looking at Ishvara, that I'm a part of the Ishvara. So now we can go into more advanced way of looking at this. Here Swami Akhandananda says in this introductory chapter, and this is just another way of looking at the flawed way of looking at Ishvara. So we are continuing on the problems. Another flawed way of looking at it is, just like the parts analogy that we did, is what is called Vyapaka Vyapya Sambandha. Vyapaka Sambandha, pervader and pervaded. The connection between a pervader and a pervaded. So a very simple example of that could be the sun shining. So the sun is the pervader, and all the rays of the sun, which are very carefully structured to fall on the solar system, is the pervaded. This is a very, this is why they say, we have talked about this before, that the sun is a very important element and the feature of samashti. This is how the This is how the expression of Ishvara is. That you have a pervader at various places, and depending upon the distance of the pervader and the pervaded, you have a life which is neither too hot nor too cold. This is what science is also trying to find out, that where can other life be? So in some cases they find that it's too hot. In other places they find it is too cold. It has to be just right. Otherwise, the water vapor, oxygen, the Pancha Mahabhutas, all of those things will not work in a unison to make life happen. And so there is a very basic difference between pervader and pervaded. So is it that kind of a connection between Samashti and Vyashti? Is God the pervader and we are the pervaded? Is that something like that? No, it cannot be that. Why not? Because the sun is a limited object itself. The sun is a limited object itself, and the connection between a pervader and a pervaded has to be within the same levels of reality. See, there are two objects with the same level of reality. One is the sun, even though the sun is quite a bit different from the human being. It's full of, fire and heat and so on. Whereas I am the pervaded, even though that is the connection, but they're still in the same level of reality. So that model does not apply. Because Ishvara is not an isolated thing like the sun. We've already discussed that in the very beginning. It's all pervaded and so on and so forth. So the pervaded and the pervader does not apply. Because you are already there at all the places. Where else can you not be there? Similar examples of that are, for example, pervader and pervaded between a fire and a metallic object. So the fire can be pervading an iron ball and make it as red hot as itself is. This is another example of that. So therefore, Vedanta says that a fundamental definition of Vyapya Vyapakata, the pervader and pervaded, cannot apply to Ishvara and the individual. It cannot apply that. But yet, Vedanta talks about it. It discusses it. What is the form of pervaded and pervader? So this is an important thing for us to see. There is another possibility, and that is the one that is really true. If there is something which is there, but that thing can also have a form which is not different from it, right? Like, for example, the water and the wave. In the water and the wave, there is pervader and pervaded relationship. In an ornament and the fundamental metal that the ornament is made out of, there is a pervader and pervaded relationship. Yes, that is very possible. So this one is a possibility for the samashti and the vyashti. The other one where you have pervader and pervaded, vyapaka and vyapya, does not apply. But this form of the relationship can apply, and in fact does apply. So we have so many examples of this. Water and wave. You have ornament and the metal. You have clay and the various pots made out of. Air and prana. Oxygen, all pervader. And an individual prana, an application of the air which does something, which creates life. It makes the whole body alive. So this relationship between vayu and prana is also like that. Prana is not fundamentally different from vayu, but it is an aspect of the vayu with a very particular function. Just like, for example, a cup is not different from a clay, but it makes the clay in a form that you can drink some tea out of. It has a functional aspect of clay. So similarly, prana is also a functional aspect of vayu. And now this is leading up to what we started to talk about last week. And we will now go into that we'll revise it and complete it and more explanation. The relationship between prajnanam and jnanam. Prajnanam and jnanam is exactly the same as water and wave. Jnanam is not fundamentally different from prajnanam, but you can call it applied prajnanam. Like prana is not fundamentally different from vayu, but you can call it applied vayu. This is what we have to really think about. So here, Vedanta says that in order to solidify this thinking, to make it more firm and real in your mind, there is this whole concept of upadana karanam. Excuse me. Upadana karanam. So what is upadana karanam? So the upadana karanam means that the applied vastu, the applied thing, whatever the applied thing is, it can be either a wave or it can be a pot or the prana or whatever, borrows the characteristics of the basic thing that it is applied from. So we know this example, we have done this many times, that the shine of the ornament is the shine of gold. The weight of the ornament is the weight of the gold. You cannot have a weight, you cannot say how much does it weigh, apart from the very fundamental thing that it is based out of. So this is one thing. Now we go into more details about the prajnanam and jnanam. If the upadanam is not visible in any way, then how do we know the upadana? See, in the case of clay in a pot, both the upadanam as well as the effect of the upadanam are visible to you. You can see the clay, you can see the pot, even though they are indistinguishable, but you can put your mind into any aspect of that. Swami Dayananji always used to give this example. He says, I've seen this so many times, where there is a lot of discussion between the mother and the daughter about the ornaments that is being prepared for her wedding. And so there's a lot of discussions, disagreements. The mother will say, I think this is what you should choose. And the daughter will say, Mom, that's old-fashioned. Things have changed a lot. You don't understand this. But the mother will say, but yeah, this is a classic design that never really goes. My wife has some, this is even worse than this. My wife has some gold jewelry that has been given to her from her grandmothers and mothers and mother-in-laws and so on. And now she has 2 daughter-in-laws. They would love to give it to them. But the daughter-in-laws, believe it or not, from what I hope they're not listening to me, they don't even like gold. The modern thing is I see a couple of people nodding, silver. So my wife is frustrated. She says, my God, all my life I was saving it for them. So her only hope is that the granddaughters might like it. Fashion may come back at some point in time. But this is a very strange thing. So anyway, Dr. Swami Dayanand used to say there's a lot of dispute about, between the mother and the daughter about, is this a good fashion? Is it a bad one? Should I buy this? And so on. And and he used to say this. He says the dad, he also goes to he is reading the newspaper. He's not involved in this discussion. The mother and the daughter will say, what do you think? He says, I don't know. Whatever you want to do, it's okay with me. All he wants to know is, what is the weight of this? How much can I afford? So once in a while he will ask the jeweler, this one, how much does it cost? So he says, oh sir, that is 2.5 lakhs. And this one? Oh, this is 3.5 lakhs. He says, okay, I got it. That's all he's concerned about that. So the form of, it all depends on what you're focused on. It's the same thing, but it all depends on the focus. Now what if you do not know the upadana karana? No, I'm sorry. The upadana karanam is not visible to you. Not visible to you. Because in this case, both the gold and the ornament are visible to you. It all depends on what you want to focus on. That's a different matter altogether. In the case of space, by the way, that's another pervader and pervaded. The space is the pervader. The room space is the pervaded. So in the case of space, Swami Akhandananda gives this beautiful example. I really like that. He says, you cannot see space. So much so, believe it or not, there are a number of schools of thought that only think there are 4 bhutas, not 5. They do not even consider space to be one of the Pancha Mahabhutas. What a mistake it is. Unbelievable. Because even now science is discovering, which our rishis knew this long time ago, that space is not what you think it is. It has so much in it. Gravitational forces, strong forces, weak forces, all kinds of stuff. It's all there in this space, but not visible. Just because it is not visible, you cannot say it's not there. It's up to you if you want to do that. So the question here is, if the upadanam is not visible, then how do I make that decision about the basics and the applied? So he gives this very nice example. He says, what happens is that because the eyes cannot see space, therefore the blueness of the sky becomes a fundamental part of the sky. Because the blueness you can see, Neelatvam, Akasha Neelaha is acceptable to people. Yes. But not the space without any color. You can say pollution, then you can say, yes, there's a lot of pollution. So something has to be converted, even though you do not see the upadana karanam. But the effect of that in some form is acceptable to us. Believe it or not, this is what is happening to our reality. So think about this very carefully. Because I don't see my reality, I see the application of my reality only. I don't see my reality, and so much so, even in the case of sky and the Neelatvam, one can understand, even when I'm just talking to you about space, you can see there is space. So there also you can at least visualize it to a certain extent, even though it's not easy to see. If you look at, let's just say, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, you try to explain space to the 4-year-old. I don't know, at some point in time. You say, baby, do you see space? The baby says space, whereas I can see tables. Well, what about, where's the space? This is space. So he'll say, what space? I don't understand what you're talking about. So it's, even though at that point in time, even space is not really visible, but at least to an adult person, I'm losing track of time. 9:45, okay. But for an adult person, a space is kind of like visible and understandable. In the case of Atma, it is totally invisible. Totally invisible. You talk to people about Atma and so on, they'll say, what are you talking about? That one incident comes to my mind. When we were at PRC, my 2 boys were 4 and 10 years old. And so they used to go to Sanjay, who was 10 at that point, was going to school, and while we were all attending Swamiji's classes and so on. So Swamiji said sometime that, I wouldn't mind. And there were 4 children. Anaya Deshpande's Naveen, my young son Manoj, Sanjay, and Christy, who was, they were all between about 4 and 10 in that range. So Swamiji said, I should really have a children's classes for them. So we all thought, oh, that's a wonderful idea. So for a particular time, Swamiji would close the door. No adults were allowed. It was all inside. We have no idea what he talked about and how. So, but pretty soon, they took notes, and especially my older son, Sanjay, who was already 10, he was, of course, quite, intelligent and so on. So he would talk about Atma and this, that, or the other. This went on for several months, probably a year and a half or so. I remember this so well. At the very end of it, we were having a general satsang, and the kids were also sitting there. So Swamiji, and so adults will ask questions and so on. So at the end of all that, Sanjay raises his hand. So Swamiji said, yes. He said, Swamiji, what is this Atma that you've been talking about for the last year and a half? I don't understand that. Everything else I understand. I was sitting there and I said, wow, this is just like saying, you read all the Ramayana and say, who was Ram again? I don't understand. So this is the fact that it is totally invisible. Totally invisible. So there, what happens is, and see this clearly, what happens is that the upadana karanam may not be understood, but the effect of the upadana karanam is visible to you. And my mind converts that without making that connection between the upadana karanam and the upadana karyam. And so what happens is our mind converts the Chaitana Vastu, the awareful being, into a Jada Vastu. It converts unlimited being into a limited being. It converts a beginningless Vastu into a Vastu which is born. It converts an independent Vastu into a Vastu which is dependent. Dependent in every which way. Dependent on time. It converts something which is so pervasive, so independent, that time and space also are an expression of it, not the reality of it. So then the conversion of the upadana karanam into the upadana karya takes the place within the coordinates of this mistake, within time and space. Then you begin to see, where am I? When am I? This is exactly what happens. This is what really the waking up period is. And I have to go through this, see how I make the mistake by not recognizing the upadana karanam, by only looking at the karyam of the upadana karanam. This is how I convert. I should be excused because that's all I can do. This is what I've been given. I'm born and I've been a given body. I can only try to do as much as I can. So it is all explainable, all understandable, all reasonable, logical, all of that. But basically it is illogical, because it is not really looking at the very truth of it. And I need help. At least I can open up my mind and say, yes, that's a possibility. I know what you're telling me. I know what you're presenting as a model for me to understand. This much I can understand, but I still don't. So, okay, so what do I do next? So then the teaching is saying, good, at least you're going in the right direction. Now let us go into the details and the elementary details, advanced details about how this happens and how you can understand who you really are. You are the very upadana karanam. Where you are making the mistake. You are not a limited being. You are in fact an unlimited being. You are not an individual. You are the very Brahman, which is the basis of the entire creation, and strengthen your thinking. Make yourself powerful enough to inquire. Give yourself enough credit. Don't sell yourself short. You have some enormous potential that you must look into, and do that. And we will help you to do that. You cannot do that by yourself, because you should know that if you start with the acceptance of yourself as a limited being, already you're making a mistake. The whole analysis is going in the wrong direction. Instead, you should say, this is the problem and this is the solution. So this is how our teaching will proceed. And we'll go into more details of this phenomena of prajnanam and jnanam next time. So probably another 1 or 2 classes, maybe even just 1 class. And then Swami Akhandananda ji has given, and I think 14 very specific steps of understanding prajnanam. So this is a more general introduction to the whole idea, which will probably take another 1 or 2 classes. And then we will go into a more specific line item by line item on how we make the mistake about not recognizing prajnanam, that is me, prajnanam Brahman. And so that will take a few classes, and by that time we would wrap up this advanced introduction, and then we will start a text of some kind, most probably Mandukya with Karika. So that is the plan that we will go through. So I'll stop the class at this point and still leave some time for questions, and we'll see. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.